Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Zach. So behind me here we have a late 80s square body C-10 truck. This is a step side, and in this video we're going to go ahead and be putting mini tubs in that. We've actually got this side here done. I want to do a step-by-step and kind of show you what all's involved, what we did, and we're going to go ahead and do the driver's side here in just a minute. Before that though, I want to show you a few things that we've done to the truck. Now again, everything on this truck is just kind of setting on here. So we've still got a panel gap, everything, liner, doors, fenders. Fenders are just kind of on here to get them up out of the floor and make it a little bit easier to kind of move around without a bunch of parts everywhere. One of the things that we did do is we've done some modifications and shaved the firewall a little bit. So let me show you that just really quick. So taking a look here under the engine bay here, you can see we went ahead and shaved this side of the firewall. Now, what we did is we just run some simple beads through here to kind of replicate that factory look, keeping our factory lines through here. And then in this area here, we'll put a bulkhead for our air conditioning and heater fittings for when we do the vintage air. And we kind of wanted to make this just clean, simple, so when you're looking at it under the hood, everything is kind of somewhat symmetrical. And I think we achieved that pretty well. So we went ahead and done all that, and I'll show some pictures in here of us actually working on that. And then we've got some epoxy primer on everything just to keep it from flash rusting. So another one of the little things that we did here on the driver's side fender, this is the factory fuel location here. We don't have the gas door on it at the moment, but on a step side bed, if you're familiar with those, that's the factory location. So one of the things that we did, and I'll show you that here just really quick, and again, I'll put some pictures up here as I'm talking, but we put another fuel fill back here on the rear of the same fender. Now this is something that you would normally see on more on a Ford of the same era. Pretty neat little idea. Customer had that, wanted that done. He's going to rerun an auxiliary tank back here to the back of the truck and transfer fuel over to the primary tank for those long extended trips. He's building this truck for his wife. They're planning on driving it, and I think it's a pretty neat little idea. So let's talk about this bed here. So what we've got, this is the factory bedside here. What we did is just laid out, this is some temporary bedwood. This is just 1x6 pine. I know it's not the correct dimensions that we're going to use, but it gets us what we need right here. Now, these are the stainless steel strips that we'll be using. And like I said, we're going to be mini tubbing this thing out. And as I mentioned before, we've already got the passenger side done here. And I've seen these things mini tubbed before, and you can do them a lot of different ways. This is what we did here. We used a factory fleet side inner wheel well, cut it down and welded it in to fit on this step side bed. I think it's a pretty unique look. I've never really seen it done. Not to say that it hasn't been done. I've personally never seen it. A lot of times you'll see just a factory, like a round, like a trailer fender style, you know, tub when they mini tub something back here. We wanted to use factory Chevrolet parts, and what we did is we come out to this first bed strip here, which ended up giving us about 5 to 5.5 inches or so of extra wheel clearance here for the bed, and as you can see, I think it turned out really, really well. So now that we've got that side done, let's go ahead. I've got our other inner fender here that we'll be using. Now, these are brand new parts from Auto Metal Direct. And if you're interested there's your part number descriptions. And so let's see how we can do this. So one of the first things that we're going to do here, we've already done it, is we need to find our center line of where everything's going to be. And as you can see here, I've got a center line marked out of our overall where this fender is going to be. We've got a center line scribed on our inner fender here as well. Now this is a stock size fender, and we've actually got to cut this down. So that's going to be our next step, is to cut our actual width that we need. Then we also have to cut our bedside out, and we have to cut our wood out. So I'm going to show you how we do all of that. Okay, so what we're going to do, because we're by ourselves, all we've done is we've simply taken a paint stick, or you can use any kind of straight edge here, and we've taped it to the front surface of our wheel well. And we're going to measure out from the inside of that over 6 inches and put us a mark. And I'll transfer that mark with a pencil over to a scribe line there, just real small. We'll take that, we'll move this around a couple of different times to get us some good measurements all the way through. Same way here. Now we're actually going to cut this down probably again, just to, I want to cut it a little long. You can always go back in and cut more out. But right now we're going to start with 6 inches, and then we'll cut it down to where we need it as we get into a little further. Again, we're just going to move our stick over here, make us a mark at 6 inches. Now we're going to take, we've got a pretty flexible straight edge here. We're going to try to line this up here with our mark there, bend it around to that mark. There we go. Just like that, and we're going to continue that on and do the same thing all the way around, and we'll get this thing cut down to size. Now it's at this point we've got our inner fender cut down to the 6 inches that we needed. Now you can do this a couple of different ways. I've got this laying down on a piece of 1/8 inch like Luan that you'd use like in a cabinet building scenario or whatnot. We just had this piece. You can use cardboard, poster board, pasteboard, whatever you've got. But what we want to do is we want to get this overall shape. So we want to take a pencil and simply trace out all the way around this wheel well here, all the way through and around. And once we have that shape marked, we want to go ahead and cut that out. And through the magic of TV, we've already got one done here. And so what you'll see is that this piece sits in here just like this and gives us our actual shape. Now this is what we'll use as a pattern to mark out onto the bedside and cut the hole for the bedside. So while we're making patterns here, we need to make one more. So we laid that down, we've got our shape there. Now we need to get our shape around the outside edge here. So again, through the magic of TV, we've got one already laid out. Same scenario, using the same board. We take this, we want to make sure that we get this edge here as straight as we can. So what I did is I just simply measured over to say 5 inches and run a straight line through there, marked it. We also want to make sure that we measure our center line here of our board that we cut out. That's a very crucial thing. We're going to carry that center line over onto, as you can see here, our wheel well. But what we want to do is we want to take and spend a little time in trimming this out really well to make sure that we get all of our radiuses here fitting. So spend a little time fitting that up, making sure that it's good and straight. Again, this panel may not be straight, but we need our cut to be straight. This is the pattern that we'll be using to cut the wood on the floor. So let's take these templates over here to the bed, and we'll mark things out there, get them ready to cut out. So we talked about earlier, we have our center line here marked on our bed. So what I want to do is I want to take and transfer that center line. I'm just going to use a straight edge here, a square. This is a little speed square. And we're going to make sure that we transfer from our center line over down and mark our center line on our actual wood. Now, again, that is very crucial because we've got our center line marked here on our pattern. So what we want to do is when we cut our pattern, we want our edge of our inner fender to come over and just barely touch this metal strip here. So we know that's 5 inches. So what I want to do is, again, I can line up, I can push this all the way over to my bed floor there and line my center line up here with the center line of my pattern, the center line to the wood. And what I'm going to do here is I need to get a Sharpie. So I'm going to get my Sharpie here, and all I want to do at this point is I want to mark where this cut is going to come in onto the stainless here on the actual piece that's running up to the bed. We've got to cut that out. So what I want to do is just take and simply mark that where that's going to be on both sides. And what we're going to do is go ahead and take that stainless piece out. We'll get it ready to cut. Then we'll line our template back up so we make sure that our edges are all the way up against the bedside and not resting on this stainless bracket. So let's go ahead. We'll remove this center section here, or this angled piece here, stainless, and get it out of the way. We'll mark our wood at that point. We'll take everything out, and then we'll get them cut. Okay, so now we've got our angled strip out of the way. We just had a couple of bolts there holding it in there temporary. So now we want to come back in and we want to line this mark back up. This is why our center lines, again, are so important. We want to line that back up with here to there, and we're going to go ahead and use our template to mark out where we're going to cut this 1x6. We're just going to take a pencil, get in here really close, get us a good mark there. And really, you'll notice all I'm marking is my radiuses here. And I'll show you that here in just a minute why we're doing that. So once we take off this other strip, there's actually a groove cut right here. And I'm just simply going to take and follow that groove. That's a straight groove all the way through. So really all I had to do was get my corners marked here and here. So now we're going to go ahead, take this out, disassemble this. We'll cut this board and our stainless strip over here. So then all we're left with is an angled piece here on the front and an angled piece back here for the rear. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and cut our stainless pieces here. I'm just going to follow our marks and then just cut that off. And there. So our 2 pieces that we need. All right, so next up, I'm going to take a jigsaw here and go ahead and cut our 1x6 out. Now again, I laid our pattern out and we just marked out our radius around through here. It may be hard to see, but once it gets to here, there's actually a groove that is cut into this wood. Now we built this is some temporary mock-up wood. You can do this if you're doing this on a finished wood. Say if you buy wood from a company like Bedwood that's already finished, and you're needing to cut this out, you can do pretty much the same thing. You're just going to follow that lip. What happens is, whenever your stainless steel strips for your bedwood comes in, and that little groove actually lays down inside that right there. So we know if we cut this right here, that our bedwood, that lip will line right there where we want it to. So we're going to take our jigsaw and just lay it right here in this groove that's already there until we get to the other end. So we got that cut out, and as you can see here, my piece broke, and that's okay because this is just temporary wood that we're using. This is not the wood that's going to be in the truck in its final form. This is basically just to get everything mocked up and built, and then if our customer wants, he can use this as a cut pattern whenever he does his bed wood for the final time. So now that we've got all of our wood cut out, we've got our angled strips cut out, we're going to go ahead and reassemble that piece of wood back in the bed. As you can see here, this bed's kind of floppy. That's going to hold it back up to the height that we need it. Once we get all of that put back into place, we'll get our bolts just temporarily back in there. Then we'll come in here and we'll mark out where we're going to cut the actual bedside. So let's go ahead and get that wood put back in. So now you can see we've got our bed floor cut out here. It fits up really nice up against this metal strip here. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our template that we made earlier and we're going to line it up. I actually have, let's see, no, I don't have that marked center, but we know that this fits exactly inside where our cuts is. If you'll notice here, I measured up from the bottom 3/4 of an inch, which is the thickness of our bedwood here. And what we're going to do is we're going to line this mark up here on both sides with our bedwood here. And so should be just like so. Line this up, and you'll notice I've got the inner or the outer fender bolted up here, trying to keep this as straight as possible here on the actual bedside. With not, that thing would get a little floppy. So you could mark this out several different ways. You could take a Sharpie, you could take a scribe. What I'm going to do is line this up here. I'm going to take a really fine, just a regular lead pencil, and make sure that this is not falling. And I'm just going to take and mark all the way around this outside edge and up against this gray primer. It's going to give me a really nice mark to cut to. Just take your time. Make sure that all of your everything lines up the way you want it to here. And so we'll move that out of the way. We've got that marked out. We're going to take a step back out of the bed here and just take a look at it and make sure everything looks correct. Make sure that it looks right here, that it's not off to one side or the other. It shouldn't be. We just want to visualize, make sure that it isn't. Then once we know that that's the way we want it, we can take and cut that out. Now you got a couple of options there how you cut it out. You can cut it out however you would like to. You can take a grinder and a cutoff wheel. You can take a little 3-inch cutoff wheel if you wanted to. What I'm going to do is take a body saw, and I can just come up right there and follow that line and get it just as nice, crisp, real thin. get it as tight to that line as I can. And then once we put our inner fender up there that we're going to put in, it's actually a little longer, so it'll stick out past that away. So we'll have to that'll be our other thing that we have to do, is get our measurements of the depth of how we actually want it, because it's more about 5 inches, and we normally, when we cut that out to start with, we cut it at 6. So that'll be our next thing there, is just get this cut out of the way and go from there. Okay, so now we've got our bedside cut out, we've got our inner fender cut out, we've got our bed floor, and you would think this would be pretty much ready to measure out and weld in. Well, you'd be wrong. What we've got to do is, if you look through here on this factory wheel well, this ordinarily would bolt in through the factory bed floor here. We don't have that situation going on here. What we do have is 4 bolt holes running through this center stainless strip here that's not going to have anything to bolt to unless we come out and build a flange for our bolt to go through here. So that's what we've got to do here. We've got to build a flange all the way around this bottom edge. What we'll do is we'll come up about 3/4 of an inch from the bottom. Then we'll come out about 1.25 inches this way. And we'll come in here, make our radius, and that way it'll give us something for our bedwood to sit on top of and to sandwich our bolts and all through here on this stainless strip. So it's the next morning here. We've got our inner fender laying over here. We went ahead and cut out some metal strips. These are about 27 inches long and 2.25 inches wide. So that gives us 1.5 inches here on the larger side, and we marked out where we're going to put our bend, and then that gives us 3/4 of an inch lip. So what it'll end up looking like is this piece here. We'll do a straight 90. And what we'll do is we'll lay this out where this 90 comes down and lays right here on the bottom edge of our factory fender. And this will give us a lip to where a flange, rather, to where we can drill through, and that'll bolt our stainless strips and our wood together. And then we'll come in and we'll bring it over to the stretcher, and we'll make this radius here where it rolls all the way around our edge. So we did it in 2 pieces. So we can focus on basically half of the inner fender at one time. You can see here that'll wrap around, and it gives us pretty much enough material to do about half. And that way we can really focus on each radius here on each end. We'll do one piece, we'll get it bent, we'll get it cut, we'll get it tacked into place, then we'll go in and do our other. So next, let's go here to the brake, and we'll go ahead and bend these two pieces up at a 90 degree. Okay, so now that we have our metal bent here, we've got to come in here, and to make this radius, we need to stretch this edge out here. So we stretch that out, and that's going to give us, be able to make us our radius. But we have 1.5 inches of material here that it's going to be a lot of metal to stretch and move around without it cracking and breaking. So what we want to do is simply get a measurement here around the radius, which looks to be about 7.5 inches. We're going to take that mark and transfer it over here to our flange. We're going to remove a little bit of that material to make that a little easier to bend. So we're going to mark that out there, and I'm going to come in here, and from this flange here, let's leave about, let's say 3/4 of an inch. Get us a mark about right there. And we're going to simply come in, get another, use this piece here for a straight edge. We're going to go from that mark up here at about 7.5 inches is where that was. And we're going to go down to 3/4. We're just going to simply cut that off at an angle right here like so. We'll remove that amount of material. That way we're not stretching all of this material out here. And then at the end of the day, when this rolls around, we're not really worried about this edge as much. Just so there has something for the wood to sit on. Up here, we need the full 1.5 inches so we can get our bolt through there. So once that comes through, we'll get that cut off, and we'll move over to the stretcher and see if we can get this bent up. So we're going to move over here to the stretcher, and we need to stretch out this edge here. We know where our cut is here, so that's where the majority of, or all of the stretch needs to happen. So we're just going to come through here and slowly work that through. And as you can see there, as we start to stretch that out, that edge is starting to roll over. We've still got a lot more to do. Now, as you can see there, we put a lot of bend into this. So we're going to go ahead and take and see how it fits up to our fender over here. And fits pretty good, but we've still got a lot of space here, so we need a little bit more stretch in here to sharpen up that radius just a little bit more. So let's put just a little bit more stretch in here, see if we can make that fit a little bit nicer. A little bit at a time, and we can constantly check it. I think I want to come a little bit more up here toward the top. So we're going to lay this up here, and as you can see, we've got it fitting really, really good. The problem that we're having is we've got a little bit of space in here, and all that is instead of being a 90, which it kind of is, we need to kind of lay this piece right here over just a little bit. So we're going to do some hammer and dolly work and get that to fit up a little nicer. It fits really nice all the way up here across the top edge here. We've got our radius about where we want it. We could actually do just a little bit more bend right in here, but let's go ahead and hammer and dolly this over and see if we can close this gap up right in here first. All right, so we're just going to take and lay this down here, kind of tap that out. And through there, make sure that we're good and flat. Now we're back over here to the inner fender, and as you can see here, that really cleaned up and tightened up this gap here between our flange that we made and our inner fender. We could actually do just a little bit more stretch right here on this very corner. Let's do that really quick here in the stretcher. Just that little bit. Oh yeah. Really got a nice fit there now. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this edge that we bent here in the 90 and I'm laying it right here on this factory little flange that's on this fender already. So we're lining that up there, getting it good and nice and tight. And what I want to do, once I get everything lined up and I'm happy with where it's at, I'm going to take and hold that there. We're going to run a scribe line right here on the fender. And that's where we'll cut this out right here. And then once we get it cut out, we'll put this back in and weld it in. All right, so we've got that cut off, and as you can see, we pretty much just cut straight through where these original nuts were. There's one there that we didn't cut through just yet. So now we're going to go ahead and remove the rest of those nuts off there. We're going to get those cut out of the way. We'll clean everything up front and back, clean all the cut little burrs off of it, clean all the E-coat off of it, and get it ready to weld. Okay, so we've got everything cut out, cleaned up. Now we want to test fit this in here, like so. And as you can see, that fits up really, really nice. I've already got my welder cranked up. I've got my ground on here. So what I'm going to do is try to get a tack weld in here. Just really quick, line that up as best we can. And let's get one more for good measure here. All right, so now we're going to take some time and get this lined up. A little bit of hammer and dolly work in here to kind of level some of these edges out, and we'll continue to get some tacks in here. And then once we get that welded up or tacked into place, we'll go ahead and do the other side. All right, so now that fits up pretty good all the way through there. We've got several tacks in there to hold everything into place. We're going to go ahead and we'll get our other flange cut and pretty much repeat the process over here on the same side and line everything up here to where it's all good, nice and even. And then once we get that done, we'll come right back and then we'll be ready to weld all this up. All right, so now we have everything fit up really nice and neat. We've got a couple of tacks in there all the way across. We've got our other side done here as well. As you can see there, it fits up really well. So we're gonna go ahead and take some time, go ahead and weld this up solid. Be a lot of welding, some hammering and dollying, and a lot of cleaning up and some grinding and this, that, and the other to get everything smoothed out. So we're going to go ahead and do that off camera. I know you don't want to sit here and watch me weld for about an hour. So go ahead and get that done, and then we'll come right back, and then we'll be ready to fit this into the truck. Okay, so now that we've got our new flange completely welded up and sanded down, we're going to go in. You can see there, we've went ahead and laid some marks out here on the inner fender. Now, originally we cut this out at 6 inches wide. We know that we really only need about 5 inches. So what I did is I come through and we put a mark there at 1 inch, and then we also marked it out over here at 5/8 of an inch. So what this is this inside this little groove, we end up going to cut this off here where my finger's at. We're going to cut that 5/8 of an inch off, and then that will leave us a 3/8 inch lip there for us to do our welding. This first line right here that we marked at 1 inch will be where our bedside sits in here. So once it sets in to the truck, the bedside will sit in here like that, at that line there. And then again, that gives us 3/8 of an inch to weld to on this side. So let's go ahead and get this cut out here. Then we'll be ready to do a few other little things here that I'm going to show us that's going to kind of help us line that up, and we'll be ready to fit it into the truck. Okay, so now that we have that that cut out here that we need, we've got our scribe there where we are going to weld to. We need to get the paint or the E-coat off of here. So I'm just going to simply take a sander, DA sander here, and run across here. Now I put a really heavy scribe in here, so it's probably not going to be able to pick it up on camera, but that's going to look like it's going to disappear. But I'm going to go back in and fix that here in just a minute. So let's get this paint sanded back. Now that looks like that is completely disappeared, but it has not. So what I can simply do now is I'm going to take a pencil here, and I'm going to come back in, and I'm just going to lightly go right over that, make that a little bit easier to see. Just like so. And then we're going to continue on and do the rest of that, and then we'll have us a something to weld to there, a good clean metal. All right, so we've got everything cut out, we've got it cleaned up, we've got our line redrew back on here with a pencil. One of the things that I want to do now, and I'm going to go right off of my center line here to start with. I'm just going to take a pair of pliers, I'm just going to take a mark and put on each side of those, just like so. We're going to take and cut those two lines there to our mark that we've got. Do that just real quick. Just like so. Then we're going to take our pair of pliers and we're going to line it up right there on our mark. We're just going to simply bend that up to a 90. So we're going to put one here, and then we're going to do one on each side over here, just like that. So then that way, once we get this up here, this will go into the bedside. It'll kind of help hold this into place where we need it to be. All right, so now we're back over here to our bedside. We went ahead and cleaned our edge up around here. One of the things that we need to do is, if you'll see these lines that are coming through here, these factory lines on the body, we need to hammer and dolly out the edges of those. Now, we'll take a little bit of time later on and we'll come back in and re-radius that with some hammers and dollies and kind of clean that up a little bit to make it look like our factory edges here. But to be able to do that and to gain us a little bit of extra room, I want to go ahead, remove all these bolts, and take this outer fender off here, get it out of the way, and then we'll have easy access to this bedside. All right, so now we have the fender off here. This is the inside bed panel. You can see there we've got our paint and primer cleaned off. We've got good bare metal all the way around. We've got our center line there marked as well. And same thing here on the inside of the bed. Again, we've got good, clean bare metal all the way around. So let's get this thing up here and do a test fit real quick. Okay. would say it looks like everything is going to work out pretty good. Looks like we're lining up pretty good here on our mark that we've got on our inner fender. I can see it. Let me go ahead and get a tack weld on here to hold this in place, and then I'll show you both sides of what this looks like. All right, so you can see there how nice, tight fitting that is there. And I've got a couple of tack welds there, so let me show you what we've done here on this side. The little tabs that we've been up, we just tack welded right there around those. And again, you can see there that we've got a 3/8 of an inch lip that we can weld on. You can see my line right there that we marked, so we'll know that that bedside needs to be pushed over a little bit. We can do all of that there as we go through and tack this the rest of the way into place, but it's pretty much what we're looking like right there. Again, show you this inside. Nice, everything fits up with our bedwood. The metal strip runs right down beside there, just like what we wanted. And again, nice, good, even gap there. Now what we'll do once this is all welded up, we'll come in with a bead of seam sealer and come in right through here and make that look like a factory bedside. So that's it. You've seen how we got them cut out, fit, measured, everything there. Like I said, that one is completely welded in already. We've got to get this one welded up. We're going to take the time to do that. Again, I don't think figure you want to sit here and watch me do that for a couple of hours of welding and hammering and dollying and fitting and finagling. So we're going to go ahead and wrap that one up here and get this thing finished up, get it welded up, and get ready for body work on the bed. So that's it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something there. I know this is a little bit different from what we've been doing, but hey, this is what we got going on right now in the shop. So we're gonna get this welded up, finished up, ready to go, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you. Hey, if you've made it this far in the video, you might as well like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out, and you'll be notified every time we post up new content. See you guys.